Hello and welcome to part 3 in RingCentral's webinar series, The Future is Calling, How to Keep in Touch with Tomorrow's Work Needs. Now today we're taking a look at the customer experience and how organizations can set themselves up for success with the right communication strategy. Now I'm Andy Spence, an independent workforce strategist, and I'll be your host throughout this futuristic journey. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Brian Allen, the Associate VP of Integrated Marketing at RingCentral, and Rachel Proven, VP of Customer Success at Proven Success. So thank you both for joining us today. Now let's start with some introductions. It'd be great if you could tell us who you are, what you do, and a little bit about your journey. So welcome, Rachel.
Hi, thank you so much, Andy. It's great to be here. Well, like you said, Rachel Provan, my company Provan Success helps new customer success leaders transition from individual contributor to manager, learning strategy, people management, and work-life balance. And I've been in customer success and support for 16 years, with the last 14 in leadership. And I've worked at, huge public companies, little startups that turned into big companies. And right now I'm just really enjoying the coaching aspect. But to me, putting together new customer success models is just so much fun. It's like a puzzle.
Well, it's great to have you today, and we can draw on so much experience there from your background. And hi, Brian.
Hi, Andy. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm the Associate Vice President of Integrated Marketing for RingCentral. So I'm passionate about SMBs and how technology can play a part in the way they do business and how they can improve what they're doing with technology. It's what drives me and what makes me happy and what I have found passion for.
No, that's great. And we can draw on that. I mean, my passion is using technology to build better organizations. And that leads me onto the first question today. We've incorporated technology into so many aspects of our business, but the data shows that the human element is still crucial for a positive customer experience. Why do you think this is? Rachel?
Well, you've got the issue that I believe the statistic is 97% of communication is nonverbal. And when you have something like a text or a chat, you're missing all of that context. So if you've ever had a situation where you've texted someone just like, "Hey," and they think you're mad at them, imagine how that is in your personal life, and then think of it magnified by business. So when the conversation really needs to be kept on task and people need to understand each other's tone, it still really helps to be human to human. I like to say that customer success and business works very well and automation works very well, but those pesky humans always mess it up.
That's so true. And we miss out on all that nonverbal information to understand where the other person is. No, that's great. And Brian, do you agree?
I certainly agree. I think there's an element of trust that comes from a human-to-human interaction. Yeah. I think automation is fantastic and it can improve speed and all those types of things. But when there is an issue, humans trust other humans to get it done and fixed and figured out. And I think that's the big part of it.
No, that's crucial, isn't it? And picking up on all the information we can to understand where the other person is, to trust them, and to make decisions around, whatever customer service is being delivered. And that's great. And our new customer journeys are different from the past, certainly. Whether we're deploying omni-channel or focusing on mobile technology. But what are the biggest ways that you've seen the customer journey change over the last few years? Rachel?
That's a really interesting question because there's always kind of a pendulum, right, with this, where it started out really high touch. And then in the more recent years, it's moved to the scale, automated, almost all tech touch. And now it's starting to come back the other way. Hopefully at some point we get to a happy medium. But I think people started to realize that something was really lacking in that one-to-many approach. It's great for a lot of things. But as you said, Brian, when trust is involved, that's really when you need a human there. So I have seen a lot more automation. I think the idea that we need to come to is automation for the day to day, but not necessarily for escalation or upsells or things like that. You know, if you're on the phone and something is wrong, it feels like things are going into the void if you don't get a human. So I'm seeing it swing back more that way with the additional option to have the chatbot, to have a resource center.
So you think it's a case of us getting smarter about choosing which interactions are best for which kind of service?
Yeah, it's about being strategic, and it's also
Yeah.
about understanding that people have different communication preferences.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you see that too, Brian? In over the last few years, have there more options for customers?
Yeah, I certainly think there are a lot more options. Rachel mentioned like chat and different things like that.
Yeah.
That is a huge channel nowadays where people, they're busy in their lives, right? And so sometimes they can continue to do what they need to do instead of hanging on a phone line or whatever it may be. They can have a chat conversation while they're continuing to work. One thing that we've noticed recently with RingCentral is SMS and texting has become a really important thing, even if it's just setting up a future call or something like that. But that initial engagement coming through an SMS has become almost paramount and almost the first thing that happens nowadays, which is a shift from where we used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, Rachel, that we've got SMS and texting, but people still want that sort of human connection, don't they? But I guess that they want it in different ways than before. Are you seeing that?
Well, yes, because especially as we move more into Gen Z, or even, you know, on the border of Gen X millennial, where I am, we don't like the phone that much. We'll want it when we really, really need a human and need it fast. But most of us, how we do 90% of our communication with other humans is via text message these days.
Okay.
And again, even if that can be misinterpreted, sometimes it is what we think of when we get a text. We think that's a person. We don't think, oh, that's a bot, that's a machine, you know, something wants my money in some way. The automatic first reaction is, this is someone I need to respond to immediately because this is a person.
Absolutely. And that leads me on the previous webinar in this series, one of the panelists was from Disney. And we were talking about using social media as customer service channels, which I find really fascinating because we've got TikTok and Instagram and Twitter. I've used Twitter, for example, you know, to get in contact with an airline company about something. But are you seeing companies using social media for customer service channels, and how are they finding that?
I've been seeing people use Twitter more so than something like Instagram or things like that, because what you post on Twitter then becomes public about the company.
Yeah.
So they kind of have to respond in that way there. Sometimes a little bit of Facebook, but I really have seen that most on Twitter. And I've used it too. You know, when my cable goes out or my internet goes out, I try and call the company and I get, you know, a machine. I call, you know, I do Twitter in 2 minutes. Oh, you know, we're sorry, we're looking at it and we'll get back to you. You know, we'll call you back. So they get back faster that way now. I do think Twitter is a great service channel.
Yeah, exactly. But it could be dangerous, you know. So I've got, for my 100,000 followers, you know, I'm angry, and I'm angry about the flight delays, and I'm telling everyone about this airline company's very poor customer service, and 100,000 people and the rest can see that. So the stakes are raised much higher, aren't they, with social media as a channel?
100%.
I really think it's taken a life of its own a bit, where
Right.
Several years ago it was the Google reviews or the reviews posted on various websites or whatever, and there was some lagging behind that. But nowadays it's almost immediate. So, and to your point, Andy, there are so many individuals, influencers out there that have such an impact on perception and business, that I think a lot of companies have to monitor those social channels very, very closely to make sure that they are engaging with any potential issue. I also think it's also a great opportunity for business, though. They can engage in those channels in a way that can show support, show some empathy and some things like that too, where a lot of it is behind the scenes, but when you're out on the public stage, you can say, oh, let me take care of that. And you can post to it and you can demonstrate that you're actually fixing the problem.
Yeah, and that's part of how people perceive your customer brand and your employer brand. You know, if people are going to come and work for you as well, with my HR hat on, so it can be part of the story, can't it? I'm a very public one, and actually, you could probably turn certain customer service issues into the positive, like you said, Brian, which would be very good.
For sure.
In a recent RingCentral report, it stated that the first step to creating a strong customer experience is to create an incredible employee experience. So, in other words, if your employees are happy, they'll be more willing to make your customers happy. So, a question for both of you is, what can companies do to improve both employee and customer experience? Rachel.
Well, this is 100% my wheelhouse, because everything I teach takes it down to treating your employees really well, understanding their journey, and making your company a part of their story, and vice versa. And when that happens, it's just mutually beneficial for everyone. But when you get that buy-in, that they're really involved in the company, that what they do matters and makes a difference from day to day, they knock themselves out for you. I know that's how I am when I'm treated well, with respect, given the authority to, go do my thing. And if there's an issue, pivot. I know I work 10 times as hard as if someone's like, all right, I'm watching your every move, you have to do it my way. So I have found my employees just, they're amazing. They just knock themselves out because they understand that they are given that freedom. And customers feel it too. They feel when you have somebody happy serving you, or someone who really cares, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and then the converse is also true, isn't it? Customers, I'm sure, can detect when the employee they're speaking to on the phone or whatever isn't in a good place with their employer. You detect a little bit of people aren't, going the extra mile, maybe.
Absolutely. I also think there's an element of education, right? When you have a support team that's well educated or has the resources readily available to answer a question, where they don't feel an added sense of pressure of saying, oh, I don't know where to go to even find this kind of information, or I don't know how to answer this question, or whatever it may be. If they're given one empowerment, like Rachel said, empowered to solve the problem, but also the resources that they need to really understand, dig in, and find the solution to the problem is very, very important. And I think that's part of it too. When they feel confident that they have what they need to answer the customer's question or problem, that's empowering as well, because they know that they can make it happen. And there's a sense of pride when you are able to support someone and figure out their problem and get past it and get them on their way.
Yeah, so I guess what you're saying is that you need to empower employees to make the right call with the customer, and to trust them a little bit.
Yeah, and support them with the resources they need.
No, that's fantastic. So I've spent a lot of time working on digital transformation programs, designing services internally. So, for example, HR, finance, these kind of processes. And I'll give you a little anecdote. I was designing services with a very well-known supermarket and department store in the UK, 80,000 employees. And we were designing the internal services, if you like, the employee services. So I'm working with an organization that's famous for its high street customer service. Yet internally, the service was not so good. So my challenge was to say, look, how can we channel some of that external customer service with our own employees? And I think we made some inroads, right? I'm not going to tell you which department store this is, but I think we made some inroads in capturing that. So it works both ways too, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And by the way, I mentioned the RingCentral Long Live Customer Service Report, which you will be able to access in the attachments below. But I enjoyed reading it. Lots of facts and figures and insights to read there. So my next question is, knowing is one thing and delivering is another. So what have you found to be the biggest obstacle to delivering a successful customer experience? Rachel, spill the beans.
You know, like you said, knowing is very different than reality, which is, often why I talk about customer success on the internet and customer success in real life. And it's the same with customer service, with support. Products don't always work perfectly. There are bugs. Anyone who works in tech knows that there are bugs in all products. It's going to happen sometime.
Yeah.
Your internal processes will not always be perfect. And our human brains design these, and there will be things that we don't see. So things will get in the way, they'll be clunky. It's really just being able to pivot to raise your hand and say, that was my bad. I'm so sorry. We had a little bug. We all know how that goes. I have had so much sympathy from other tech people. Thankfully, I've worked mainly B2B, but from other tech people being like, oh, we've had the worst experience with this. So part of that is having a realistic expectation that things are not going to go perfectly and to have a plan for when they don't.
No, that's great. And I guess what you're saying as well is to be honest, to admit that sometimes the products will have glitches and to be comfortable with that as well.
The best experiences I've had too are those where the support person, the customer success person, whoever I'm speaking with, shows empathy for me, right? They try to understand what the problem is. They're showing empathy. They recognize, as Rachel said, they recognize that there was something that came up. Maybe it's out of their control, maybe it's not, whatever it may be, but they're showing empathy for it and delivering on that. I think that really ties into the previous question as well, as if your employees are bought in and they understand where you're at and where you're going, and they're confident in who they're or how they're supporting it, they can show that empathy and really deliver that in the moment.
And that's a great segue from empathy to chatbots that don't have empathy, right? So I want to turn our attention to the communication formats themselves. So how do you think the rise in text and video communications has changed the customer success game?
Ooh, I love this one. Because it's so important, it's really allowed us to scale. And like I was mentioning before, people want to be able to self-serve when they can. It's going to be easier, if you have an intuitive search function and, knowledge library for people to navigate. Most of them will prefer to go that route first. We're brought up to, you Google it first. So if they can do that on your website, that's always a nice to have. The advent of video with things like Loom has been absolutely amazing for support materials. What I like to do is what I call 2-minute videos. So take any sort of complex process, break it into parts, and then each one of those parts gets a couple 2-minute videos so that you're having sort of micro steps shown to you and talked over. There are also programs that will turn those into knowledge articles for you as well, so that you then have people can see it, people can hear it, people can read it. They have all the ways that they could want to interact with it. And then, of course, you still have a human that you can reach out to. But
exactly.
It covers the whole gamut. Chatbots, me personally, I'd rather be able to do a search. I'm more frustrated when I'm doing a chatbot and it's not getting me the results I want. But obviously it works for some people, or they would not still be around.
Exactly. And I love the idea of taking a solution and turning it into a video, because that's what people are consuming when in their spare time, when they're having fun, right? It's TikTok videos, and a lot of their training and educational videos are really being condensed down into these 1-minute and 2-minute summaries, which, as someone who communicates for a living, is really challenging. But if you get it right, people really get it, and then you can scale up. So that's fantastic. And Brian, what do you think around that question around the use of text and video communications?
Yeah, I think the world is changing, right? I think there is not just one avenue to reach customer support or things like that, and businesses have to be aware of that there are a lot of different kinds of engagement that needs to happen, and it's not just a single channel. It's not just a phone number on your website anymore. A lot of people are wanting to interact in different ways, and so I think it's supporting kind of this omni-channel approach to things. I think there is a place for chatbots. I've had success with chatbots where I'm saying I just need to know where to go to get this.
Would
And
you
a
call
lot
that
of times-
signposting? Kind of, here's a link.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the chatbots are great at that, because if they're programmed properly, they can give you the link and I'd be like, great, that's all I needed. There are other things that are far more complex where I want to have a chat conversation with a human being so they can understand what my problem is, or a phone call, or even a video meeting, or whatever it can be. There's just different channels. I also think having videos, having a great support library and some of those things where you're self-aware of what the questions are probably going to be and having those posted out there, I think that's very, very helpful. So I think there's just a lot of different channels that need to be supported. People want to integrate with this and communicate in different ways. And it's important to meet them where they are.
And so listen, Brian, in the good old days, there were about 3 channels to manage. We had emails, voice. I'm trying to think what else, so it was really simple. Now today, I don't know how many you would estimate are normal in an organization, maybe 5, 10, 20 different channels. So, I might have a customer account, I don't know, with a product firm, but I've also got all the social media channels. And I've got text. I've got all these different ways of interacting. I've got a particular problem. How on earth do you keep track of that one customer and all the different ways they're communicating with your company? How on earth do companies manage that?
Well, when I've run across that, the way that we've handled it is through a customer success platform, something like a Gainsight, Catalyst, Tatango, any of those. They basically have integrations with most of the channels, or at least an API, where you can connect these things through an account number to your various channels. Yeah. So, if there are app mentions on Twitter, you could have an automation that would direct it to that account. And this links up with things like Zendesk, where they can see as well what's going on with the customer. Everyone has that sort of 360 view there.
No, that's great. So you pretty much have a good visibility of all the communications that a particular customer is raising with your company.
Exactly. And you can use that to modify the health score. For example, if I have a certain number of communications, if it goes over a certain number of support communications, I'm going to start saying that's a risk, because they shouldn't need us in a support capacity this often. So maybe we need to do a little bit more, a little bit more training or a little bit more engagement there. It really informs our strategy.
No, that's great. And Brian, would you have any tips or advice for companies for managing this situation? I mean, Rachel mentioned the software we can use, but any kind of tips or advice in this area?
Yeah, I think there are a few things. For example, I think there's customer contact center solutions that are like this now too. There's a lot of tech that's kind of starting to build into this space, and however you're coming from it may change your strategy a little bit. Like contact center solutions nowadays, they're primarily like driven by phone, but they're becoming omni-channel. So they're looking at all of these different things. They're doing social listening, they're doing chat, they're doing text, they're doing all of these things and building these customer profiles like you mentioned, Andy. I think the main tip that I would show is using the analytics. Rachel kind of alluded to this too, is using the analytics to really understand how you're engaging with the customers. Who are these customers that are coming back? A lot of these insights can change the way that you do your processes internally to improve things and make things better. So take advantage of the analytics, understand what it's telling you, and then as the manager or as the person overseeing that, it ultimately comes back to that human element again, right? Like the human has to implement those things. They have to take the analytics, look and see what's going on, and implement a change.
Oh, that's great. So I imagine you've got this 24/7 dashboard with all the different sort of queries coming in, the status, and that gives you some great information for improving the service, I bet.
Absolutely. I think data is so important nowadays, and it's becoming a part of everything we do. Like the simplest tasks are tracked and looked at. But nowadays there's the real time, like as it's coming in, you can see it as it's coming in, and you can compare that to historical, because we're tracking everything and storing data so that we can see what's happened in the past. And the combination of those two different elements is really, really important.
No, that's great. It helps me lead on to the next question, because I love looking at future trends, looking in the crystal ball and thinking about what's coming up in the world of work. I look at demographics, tech trends from blockchain to AI, and how we use data, and how different types of organization structures are emerging. So I like to keep an eye on things. But looking into the future, what do you see as possible emerging trends to watch? For example, do you think we're going to get these chatbots that use the data to anticipate our needs, or is that going too far? What do you think the trends are?
I haven't heard that one, though. It's interesting. I'm not averse to it. If there are logical connections, absolutely. Why not? I think oftentimes we oversimplify what leaps the human brain makes. Do you ever start off talking about like, oh, I took a course the other day, and then, 3 minutes later, you're thinking about a duck. It doesn't, but you got there in some sort of connection, but it's not going to make sense to anybody else. What I think is going to be the next big thing, at least I hope, is machine learning through natural language processing that can take customer feedback that's qualitative and turn it more quantitative. Because that's something that we really struggle with, because customers will write in all sorts of text, that is qualitative. It's very difficult to categorize that in a way that isn't manual right now. And to catalog all those things without repetition. So I've seen people starting to get it. I don't know that anyone's really nailing that yet, but starting to do things with word clouds and words that are associated with one thing and another. I think that once that really gets nailed down, oh my gosh, it's going to be so huge.
That's going to be rich, isn't it? I've seen pilots of that internally. So asking employees what they think about working for a company. And, it's analyzing the text responses. So it's great working here, but, I wish I was paid more. I wish I had more vacation or whatever. And it's interesting that you could use that text to look at something called co-occurrence. If people are actually saying something negative about working, what it's like to work there, what's the secondary thing that they're mentioning, if at all? And using that kind of AI to actually work out what are the issues within our employer base. And of course, that would apply to customers too. It could be really rich, couldn't it?
And that is the exact problem that people are having right now. If you think about when a customer is leaving, a lot of the time they'll say, it's been absolutely amazing. We've had such a great experience with you, and we're going somewhere else.
So you have no idea why they've left.
So the AI will be like, that was a great interaction. You're like, was it though?
Yeah, because you really want to know the second piece, which is because I found somewhere better and cheaper, or, I'm leaving the country. You want to know that, don't you?
Yeah.
I think AI and machine learning is going to become a bigger and bigger part of all of these things. I do think there, as Rachel has pointed out, excuse me, that there is a human element that can't be matched yet, and hopefully never. But we'll see. We'll get to that point later on. But I do think that if we can use machine learning and use AI to support the rep, whoever's having that interaction, and there are tools out there already that are starting to serve these things up, where it's listening into a conversation, it's helping to prompt different questions, or it's delivering certain scripts, or it's delivering content or information that may be applicable to the conversation. I see that as the main goal of the AI and the machine learning, is to support the rep, not necessarily to do the rep's job.
Yeah.
But in order to support them, and so that they can do the right thing, have the right content, information, whatever to serve to the customer. It's always going to be, in my opinion, the human element that's going to be the core of this, that they need to
Yeah.
still trust what they're going to be served, but in the right way.
I think that's great. So we've got the data, we've got the algorithms. It's doing the legwork for us, right? It's doing the number crunching. It's looking for patterns, and then it's coming up with something useful to a worker that says, "Look, in this kind of call, here's the recommended course of action for 88% of interactions, right? Unless X, this kind of thing." So it gives you these kind of insights. I think that's really interesting. Of course, there's issues around data privacy, who has access to that data and what it's used for. But I think that's a general issue around the use of technology across every domain, really. So that's really fascinating. And I think a question for you is, what are companies getting wrong in customer services that you see most commonly? Is it the wrong tools or the poor implementation of them? Is there anything that you think you see most commonly with organizations, Rachel?
I think it's two things. One is silos. So you have the support team getting all this information, solving problems, and then it never goes anywhere else in the organization. So anyone else who touches the customer has no idea, and the customer gets frustrated with that. It doesn't seem like a big thing, but as an experience, you want to feel like the company knows your account. And the other thing is over relying on things like chatbots and things like that. You need to know how much it solves, because if your customer can't reach anyone and they're frustrated with this chatbot and they've sent an email and they just feel like they're nowhere, customers won't stay because you have good customer support, but they will leave if you have bad customer support.
Right. No, that's a great insight. And Brian?
I think it's the prioritization, right? Like, I think if your organization prioritizes customer support, customer engagement, those types of things, I actually think it does lend to loyal customers, because they are willing to engage with you because they know that they're going to get their problem solved. They're going to have a good experience with those types of things. I have a lot of brands that I'm loyal to because they've helped me out in a pinch when things didn't go the right way, and they delivered in a perfect way. And it's helped me to say, like, look, I can trust them. I know that even if something comes up, they're going to help me out. So I think it's that prioritization. I do think part of that prioritization is making sure that you have the right tools.
Yeah.
If your support team is not given the right tools and they're having to kind of piece things together, and it just makes for a bad experience for the employee and for the customer. So delivering with the right tools is important as well.
Well, that's fantastic. And you've turned that question round to some positive and constructive tips for listeners today. So be really careful of those organizational silos, find out where the blockages are, try and remove them. And as Brian said, prioritize the areas that you need to focus on, which is fantastic. Well, listen, we're coming to the end of our talk today. I've really enjoyed it. And I guess if I was to summarize, I think we're using technology in really smart ways. So we're using technology for the right kinds of transactions so that we're allowing the human interaction at the right places. And that seems to be what we're using this technology for, which is fantastic. So we can enable trust, so we can enable effective communications. I think that's really exciting. I'm looking to the future. Getting the machines to help us improve this is it's going to help our human interaction. So, I think that's a really positive thing that I've taken from this call, and I hope listeners have today. Listen, thank you for attending the third webinar in RingCentral series. The Future is Calling, How to Keep in Touch with Tomorrow's Work Needs. So a big thank you to Brian and Rachel for sharing their perspectives, their examples, and their insights today. For more information, click the attachment section below and make sure to register for the next episode of the series. So hopefully we'll see you then.